Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another edition of Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, the high performance coach, helping you to shift your mindset. And today, helping you to shift your mindset towards the subconscious mind. We have a phenomenal pack filled show today. We have a phenomenal guest. We have great co hosts. It's not even all about me. I'm just excited to dive into this topic because we are aware of the subconscious mind, but not aware enough about it that we talk about it enough. And today we're going to dive into that. We're going to squash any preconceived notions around the subconscious mind. This is chapter 11 of our phenomenal text, Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. We're diving in. Before I bring in our co host today, I do want to insert a question that I have for you all, which has been a pre question about this subconscious mind. I'm going to post the subconscious mind question to the chat, but the question is the subconscious principle the eighth step to riches in Napoleon Hill's great book, Think and Grow Rich? That's a true or false question. Is it the eighth step to riches? So let's go on and bring in our hosts with our phenomenal hostess with the mostest, the leadership strategist, Galen Bingham. Galen, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. I am looking forward to this conversation. I think I say that every week, but I'm looking forward to this conversation. Actually, I'm looking forward to this conversation for some personal reasons. One of my favorite quotes or passages out of this chapter, this principle, is actually one of my favorite quotes out of the entire book. And when I read it, I always hear one of my favorite rap groups' voice, because the passage is on page 216, and it says, "Positive and negative emotions cannot occupy the mind at the same time." And that's when I always hear Lauryn Hill saying, "It defies the laws of physics," right? This Napoleon Hill goes on to say, one or the other must dominate. It's our responsibility to make sure that the positive emotions constitute the dominating influence in our mind. And then he gets more deeply into how to make that happen. So I am so looking forward to hearing our guests talk about what strategies can we put in place to make sure that the positive thoughts are the dominating thoughts, because you can't have a positive thought and a negative thought in the same space. It defies the laws of physics. So let's get into it, man. I'm ready to tackle this.
I love that. Love that already, Galen. You're diving in deep already. It reminds me of another part of the text where it says, faith and fear cannot occupy space in your mind at the same time. So it's very interesting that also the subconscious mind talks about those positive and negative thoughts or the mindsets to a certain extent. Loving it. We're going to come back to you, Galen, to talk about these steps in just a little bit. But let's bring in the master wealth builder, Ann McNeil. Good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, Ann McNeil, the master wealth builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business, and utilizing these principles and this philosophy. Uh, Listen, guys, I am excited about one particular portion of this subconscious mind principle, and it is the fact that my mind never sleeps. Wow. The subconscious mind never sleeps. So we're going to discuss today what instructions are we giving it? Because you see, when I go to work, I go to work. And when I sleep, I sleep. But my subconscious mind goes to work and goes to work and goes to work. What about yours? That's what we'd like for each of you listening to us today to ask yourself the question: what am I putting into my mind? Just like what you put in your body physically. What are you putting into your mind subconsciously to control your every thought, act, and deed? So let's get this party started.
This is exciting stuff there, and I'm really, really excited to dive into this subconscious mind. I had a dream last night too. I wonder if my subconscious mind was trying to
Tell you
alert me
something.
a little bit there, Ann. Maybe I'll go into
But
that a little
Darlene's
bit
going to
later.
help us with that this morning.
Yeah, that would actually be a great thing. So thank you so much for segueing into our phenomenal guest today, Darlene Corbett. Darlene is a keynote speaker, author, and licensed therapist and hypnotherapist. She is known as the unstuck expert. Her book, Stop Depriving the World of You, is published by Sound Wisdom, helps readers to begin their unique journey to self-discovery. Biz Catalyst 360 invited her to be a featured contributor and columnist, and her column, Inspiring You, can be found on that site, Biz Catalyst 360. And she is also a contributor to 60 and Me, and more recently, she has penned several articles on Medium. Without further ado, Darlene, good morning to you.
Good morning. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you. 3 times. 3 is a charm.
3 is a charm. Absolutely. You're not even a guest anymore. You're just part of the show for sure, Darlene. So thank you so much for joining us again this morning. Darlene, my first question right off the top for you is about this book, Think and Grow Rich, and how you remind us how you first discovered it,
Sure.
but then also go into what it means to you today, this book, Think and Grow Rich.
I adore this book. It's probably one of the biggest books that changed my life in the course of my 50s. Think and Grow Rich, I learned about it. I never heard of it. I'm in mental health. Most mental health providers, unfortunately, are not familiar with it. A couple, but not many. I learned it from a strategy coach, my friend and colleague, Marilee Driscoll. I read it. I fell in love with it. I started writing more. Then I discovered they had a movie they were funding, or somebody was funding it. I sent about $25 to this site. I started getting letters from the publishers, Sound Wisdom. I said to them, not thinking anything about writing a book, I said, I'd like to invite you to be on my newsletter, which is very infrequent now. I put the administrator on my newsletter. She wrote me an email, saw my articles. She said, have you ever thought about writing a book, or have you written a book? My articles went in front of the publisher. The beginning of my book, the seed was planted, and it gave birth to my book in 2018. It was all because of Think and Grow Rich.
Wow, loving that story, loving how that one book can help to manifest another. And so we'll dive more into that there, Darlene, and actually we'll even dive more into how the subconscious mind maybe even has allowed you to manifest a book from that perspective, or how it helps to manifest other things in your life. But before we do that, let's talk about the book a little bit more. And Galen, tell us a little bit about these 13 steps, if you could. And remember, we have a question that the audience is supposed to be answering around these 13 steps.
Yeah, well, this video is going to give away the answer. So Laverne has already chimed in. She's the first one I see coming in from YouTube with her answer. We're going to see if that answer is correct, because one of the things that I talk about a lot that I really enjoy about this book, this philosophy, is that it's not just one idea. There are 13 ideas that all fit together, and it's interesting how they weave together, how they connect, and one principle supports the other. So let's take a listen and watch to this video, and we'll come back and see if Laverne is correct.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith. Having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Those 13 steps. You got the answer to our question for sure. We are just rolling along, but I'm ready to dive into some questions to Darlene because Darlene has a little bit of a background in this subconscious mind. And so Darlene, my first question for you, I'm going to tee it right up for you, is around what Galen had mentioned already about positive and negative thoughts. I had also mentioned about faith and fear operating in your mind at the same time. How does the subconscious mind play into what we do consciously? What goes on there? Can you explain a little bit of that for us?
Sure. So people think that the unconscious mind, subconscious mind is inaccessible. They somehow think if you go there, it's another world, which it is to some degree. But it's a world of ours that we can access. And what I like what you both said is the unconscious mind, subconscious mind, should I say, I'm so used to my hypnosis language. You can't hold a positive and negative thought. Maintaining a negative thought, continuing negative thinking is a habit. You can change the habit. You can replace that habit by inserting positive thinking. Not always an easy remedy, however. You have to practice it over and over. And you have to do it by writing it down, keeping it in your mind, because we all have minds that wander. And through the power, we all have this, of focused attention, by maintaining that, by being tenacious and keep focusing on the positive, it can change that negative thinking. So you can replace that negative thought with a positive thought. We can access our subconscious mind. What people don't realize, we actually are always accessing our subconscious mind, but we can do it in a more measured fashion. We can request it. We can go to it and say, help me do this.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you so much for that, Darlene. You mentioned some things about writing down or as a task, as a way to be able to dive into our subconscious mind. I think of affirmations or words like that. Can you give us some examples of what may work? Because we may have audience members that want to affect their subconscious mind a little bit better. What are some ways that we can do it positively, way more positive, because we're inundated with negativity so much in our lives? How can we shift that narrative for our subconscious mind?
There's a couple of things. One is there's some, it's not easy, but it's simple, if you will. So you can say a mantra. You can go I often suggest people look in the mirror. Some of the people they would rather not look in the mirror, but I say, look in the mirror, change your body language, and start practicing. Write it down, practice. For example, I learned years ago for a simple technique for smokers, and we changed it to non-smokers, anything that's a habit that you want to eradicate. I need my body to live. I owe it to my body to stop this habit. This is not good for me. You can change the language. So I often say, think of a sentence that really resonates with you. I am confident. Not I will be, I am. You want to begin the process in the present. So you keep embedding it in your mind. For example, I had a client once, very successful in her profession, but didn't feel very good about herself. I said, how do people view you? She said, well, they call me the rock. So I hypnotized her and I used that language. I said, not only are you a rock, but you rock. And she loved it. It's taking language that you've heard from other people, and if you haven't, that you want to see yourself, but not I will, I am. I am.
I am. Yeah. I love that. I love that there, Darlene. Darlene, I have a ton more questions, but that would be unfair to my co-host here for sure. I also want to make sure that everyone who is listening and watching, please, if you have any questions for Darlene relative to this subconscious mind topic that we're going into today, please don't hesitate to dive on in, jump on Facebook, jump on YouTube Live. We have room for your questions. Galen, I could sit here all day long with Darlene, but I know you got some questions, so I want to be fair to you.
Yeah, well, actually, this is incredibly timely because later next week I'm going to be part of a panel for coaches. It's a global panel for coaches, and we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence and mental health. And so one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is how you can interrupt that negative talk track, that negative image, or those negative habits that lead to poor mental health. And so I'm introducing this idea of 5-minute vacations. And so I would love to get Darlene, I'd love to get your thought as to how do you interrupt that negative habit and replace it with something positive? What are some strategies that you've come across or that you've suggested to your clients on how to interrupt that negative habit and replace it with something different?
I like your 5-minute vacations. I think that's wonderful. I suggest people close their eyes and visualize if they can. Now, some people will say they're not very good at it, but if you really just then imagine a daydream. Everybody daydreams at some point, because that's what hypnosis is, simply a daydream. So I have a technique I suggest to people. I learned it from a wonderful hypnotherapist. Her name was Claire Frederick. She's passed on, but I modified it accordingly. So I invite people to go to a place of beauty, a place that they can access spectacular visuals, beautiful sounds, smells that you can't take your nose away from. And then I asked them to go journey inward and think of their inner strength. I learned this from Claire, and I added it on. And your inner strength, we all have one. Every human being has an inner strength. So as Clea used to say, it can be an image, a thought, a bodily sensation, a feeling. I added a beautiful sound, an encouraging voice, because we often forget about those encouraging voices from long ago and not so long ago, or a positive memory you can anchor onto. Because many people, as we know, it's the unfairness of life. We know this, and that horrible things have happened. But if they can anchor onto something, that can help them change their thinking. That can invite that 5-minute vacation that they can invite, embrace, and go back to on a regular basis.
I love that. I love, and I'll tell you another thing that I have just gathered from your answer is the need to invoke as many senses as possible.
Yes.
To help snap you out of that, because the brain doesn't really distinguish between what's real and what's created, what's manufactured. And the more that we can put the brain or the subconscious mind in the state that we want it to be in, as opposed to this habit. I love the way that you're calling it a habit, because that is exactly what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Miss Ann, you've got to be enjoying this conversation so far.
Yes, it's taking me back actually to the beginning of these principles. Napoleon Hill, he talks about the fact that the thoughts, excuse me, in the beginning, Darlene, in the chapter of desire,
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill shares with us that we should have a desire. And so when I think about the subconscious mind, the mantra, if you will, the affirmation, if you will, when you think about the fact that everything that we create starts, and this is what you're sharing with us, and it's a confirmation of what he said, it starts in the form of a thought, an impulse, a desire. That desire can be manifested the more we have those thoughts, if you will, which helps us to be mindful of the fact that when Napoleon Hill tells us to think about what you want, create an affirmation, recite it twice a day, once upon arising in the morning and once upon going, before you retire at night, we are programming our subconscious mind. My question for you is, can you share with us, how do you use this process for yourself in the creation of your desire, whether it's material or otherwise?
Well, I try to practice what I preach. I write things down. I get a thought in my mind. I love the imagination. I love the fact that the subconscious gives us access to our dreams, our thoughts, our imagination. And I write it down. I could be in the middle of something that has nothing to do, well, shouldn't I say it may be connected, but not directly to that, whatever's going on, and I write it down. It gives me ideas. So I, like all of us, if I get a negative thought, I start to change it. I start to invite a positive thought. And if someone reminds me, as like all of us, we need to be reminded sometimes, I go, yes, hone in on that, focus on that. So I use my imagination. I do a lot of writing. I find it therapeutic. And I focus on the positive. I focus on the positive for me. I focus on the positive for my clients. I'm not being a Pollyanna, but I say we have nothing to lose by being positive, by being hopeful. We don't know the future. None of us know it. Why not focus on the positive? What's the worst thing can happen? It may not happen, but it may. Why not go with the positive versus the negative? So that's my premise. That's what I do. I think about it. I write it down. I think about it again. And then I also practice not only what I preach, but I try to spread it out to others.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You're reminding me of something Napoleon Hill shared about. He talked about health consciousness, money consciousness, and it ties directly into the power of the subconscious mind to be conscious. And I think that for me, living in this philosophy, just the idea of, and you hit something so powerful, the idea of the hunches, the inspirations,
Yes.
Over the years, it has helped me to develop what I call a date with myself. And every morning, yes, 7 days a week, I have a date with myself. And I find that this is where I'm able to tap into the subconscious mind and really begin to listen, but not just to listen, but to act and to do. So, can you share with us maybe one inspiration? I know you shared earlier about the book, but can you share with us another one inspirational thought that has come to you through the subconscious mind that you've also acted on?
You know, it's interesting. It's a great question. I'm thinking as I just read, I love the subconscious mind. I love all this in the book, but I love where Napoleon Hill says that the finite mind is accessing infinite intelligence.
Yes.
If you asked me years ago that I would be a speaker or a writer, I would have looked at you like, oh, I want to write a book someday. Well, who doesn't? That infinite intelligence, I really believe, and I believe in God, and we've talked about that. God has given us infinite intelligence that inspires me on a daily basis, Ian, and Galen and Peter also. That inspires me. I don't always, people go, how do you know what to write? I said, I don't. I invite the infinite intelligence out there to give me an idea. And so far, so good. It's like, I'm even thinking as I'm in this conversation with all of you, that I'm going to write about the unconscious, subconscious mind in one of my articles next week.
Powerful.
I love it. Yes.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. I want to go back to Peter because what happens as a part of what we do, and also Brittany, we're talking about conscious and the action. Many years ago, being inspired, if you will, as a part of creating a mastermind of accountability organization, which is what International Mastermind Accountability is. We realized over the years, as this whole idea of masterminding just started becoming so popular, that many people don't quite understand how to mastermind in an existing group. So we've created a beta test group for masterminders. And if you're interested in being a part of that beta test group, you can go to internationalmasterminders.com/group mastermind, register with us, and we'll make you a part of our beta test group. But this is for your existing mastermind group, or if you're considering starting a group. Again, if you're in a group, a mastermind group, and you want to be a part of the beta test where we're discussing what are some best practices. This is a free test. There's no fee. But what we're looking to do is to help mastermind groups become better in learning how to help its members mastermind and talking about the subconscious mind. And I said this is because many, many, many years ago, and I've been 40 years now doing this, but many, many, many years ago for me, in this particular chapter, in journaling some ideas, the idea came up about mastermind processes, systems. Where is it written? And so being inspired, and that's what I'm asking all of our listeners to do. When you tap into what Darlene is sharing, connecting with infinite intelligence, listen. But once you listen, you must act. And one of the first ways to act from the impulse and the hunches that you receive through your subconscious mind, write it down. So, Peter, back to you.
Stuff there. Continuing to love this. I have more questions. I just got more questions. So I'm looking at this text right now. I'm looking at Think and Grow Rich. And again, just piggybacking a little bit on what Galen had mentioned earlier in the text on page 214, Napoleon Hill says the negatives automatically inject themselves. So the positives must be injected. So we've been talking about affirmations. We've been talking about just ways, strategies. But Darlene, here's my question. I mean, this goes back to what Ann was just talking about as it relates to masterminds. How important is it to surround yourself with the right people relative to your subconscious or unconscious, as you're mentioning it? Is there a correlation at all from your experience, from your perspective, about how the people that we surround ourselves with impact our subconscious?
I think so. Not only for me personally, I do obviously better with more optimistic people since I tend
Mhm.
to be more of a positive person. But in my world, and you know, you're all coaches, my role as a therapist, I don't even realize it that I say things to help that people feel hopeful, and they say it's all. And I'm not giving myself a pat on the back, but this is what they've said to me, and I don't even know I'm doing it. I'm trying to be realistic, but hopeful. I really, you make me feel more positive. This feels positive. I needed this today. You always have a positive spin on it, and I'm not spinning. I'm really just saying what it is, and again, we're reverting back, changing that habit. We do have to inject positive. I think that's true. Changing that negative thinking, that hopeless feeling that somehow, well, what if it doesn't happen? Well, we don't know, but it might if you think positively. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes, I say fleeting opportunity is missed because you're so negative and closed off. By opening things up, you can see the positive. You can see that little flicker of light in that darkness. That that's invaluable, and I can't be around people too long that think so negatively because
Yeah.
it doesn't resonate.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It doesn't resonate. It just doesn't feel right after a while. You just get turned off by sometimes the negativity.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my mastermind, or you surrounding myself with others question. Here's my other question. I had a dream last night. So amongst being above being a coach, I also teach. I'm a college professor, and I have not been in the classroom for almost 2 years, obviously because of the pandemic. I've been doing a lot of stuff online in this type of a format. I got to go back in 2022, specifically in January. I had a dream about my first class last night, and literally, if you had woken me up in the middle of that dream, I would just think I was in my classroom. That's how vivid it was. It wasn't anything negative. It was just a dream about going through. As you dive into the subconscious, as you dive into therapy and hypnotherapy, what is my mind, is my subconscious trying to tell me something from your perspective?
Yes, your subconscious. So obviously, it's on your mind, and your
Sure.
subconscious mind is accessing that. What I think you could go with that, and you know this probably is invite that dream back and invite it in a way that you want to see. You can incubate a dream. That there's a whole lot of theories on that, even in hypnosis. But
Sure.
that dream is telling you that it's important. So maybe you can either write something down before you go to sleep. Right? I'd like to go back to that dream and learn more about it, or just write it down when you wake up and see if it promotes the infinite intelligence
Right.
with your finite mind, see where it's taking you.
It was just quite interesting because I usually don't remember all of my dreams, but I
Yeah.
woke up vividly remembering this one. I was like, huh, I wonder what this is all about, and I wonder what's going on in my subconscious that I need to explore a little bit more. So thank you so much for allowing me to do that with you for sure, Galen. Again, I told you, man, I can do this all day long, but I know you might have another question. But what
Yeah,
about your dreams,
absolutely.
Galen?
Absolutely. Like I said, man, I got this conference to attend. I need some help getting ready for this conference. But hey, something that is on my mind is relative to literally what Darlene and you just did. I tend to be a positive person, but I noticed that I kept having this negative thought continued to peek its head, and I would do my best to replace it with a positive thought, but it would continue to come. It would continue to creep in, and in working with my therapist, yes, I'm a certified trained coach, but I have two coaches and a therapist. Um, she suggested instead of trying to replace the thought, what if you dealt with the thought? Maybe you haven't dealt with the thought. Perhaps there's something that this thought is trying to teach you or alert you to. And so, Darlene, I wanted to come back to you and get your perspective on the value of working with other people, whether it's your mastermind, whether it's a good friend, whether it's a therapist, but working with people to help you deal with or invite those negative thoughts rather than pushing them away, but exploring, very similar to what you were saying with Peter, exploring what could that thought be trying to tell you? What's the value in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So often in hypnosis, if something is interfering, we try to, we do the least, we do what's easiest. You try to help somebody maybe replace it, remedy, if it's not a major issue. And it doesn't have to even be not a major issue, but an issue that they don't want to delve into. But that doesn't always work. So then you explore it. I think that's great advice from your therapist. You can't, obviously, you're trying to change it. You try to replace it. It might be worth exploring it with people you trust and with people that, in a very unobtrusive way, though, just get you to think about more, when did you experience this before, if you ever have? And in the past, if you have experienced it, what's helped that work its way through? Because sometimes our clues, even though the past is done, we can get information from the past. And you can do this through a mastermind, with a therapist, through hypnosis, through visualization. But I agree. I think that's a really good idea to explore it, but in little bits and pieces. Because sometimes all it does is take the right question. And you can say, oh, yeah. Or what helped you before overcome this? Oh, yeah. Again, I'm making this sound very easy. It's not, but it can be done.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that even caused me to consider that this might be something to address is, I think it's also on page 217 in the book. Napoleon Hill talks about there are 7 major negative emotions, and he lists them as fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger. And you need to try to avoid them. But if you can't avoid them, if there's something, if there's little small things that continue to pop in your mind, I love your advice, Darlene, about trying to explore them with people that you trust. And again, this just further validates for me that this book is a great way to understand how life works and how to get the most out of life. Again, I'll go back to you, Miss Ann, because I know that this is something that you have not only delved into, but you've been doing this for 40 years. So I'm sure you have struggled with the same issue.
Okay. The way I deal with my subconscious mind is I lie. I lie. And Galen said it earlier. You see, our subconscious mind does not know the difference between what's true or for what's false. It only knows what we tell it over and over and over again. I remember reading something, if you can picture this, it was actually this little animal. If you could picture let's call it a rat. And this rat is your conscious mind. And it is running fast as it can toward the north. Fast. But it is sitting on an elephant that's traveling south. Can you picture that, everybody? Co-hosts. Can everybody picture that? That, to me, is the picture that I put in my mind about the power of my conscious mind, the things that I think that I'm in control of. I'm that little rat. But my subconscious is that elephant going in the opposite direction. And so for me, going back to chapter 1, which everybody hears me talk about those 6 keys, I am learning through living in this book and these principles over and over and over again that I can control that elephant and travel in the same direction if I'm clear. That's where the clarity comes in. If I'm very clear about exactly what I desire, I don't need to know how I'm going to get it. So 5 businesses later, from MCO construction to MCO consulting and my speaking business and this phenomenal group we call International Mastermind, and also the other group called the National Association of Black Women in Construction. I am now learning just to tap into the power of my own subconscious mind. And I'll leave with this comment that Napoleon Hill said. He said, and this is for all of us because we're all great. He said that greatness is the ability to recognize the power of our own minds, that's conscious and subconscious, and then embrace it and learn how to use it. So coming back to you, Darlene, can you share with our audience any ideas, suggestions, or thoughts of something that you might be promoting, or books or programs or classes or something to help them understand how to embrace and use the power of the subconscious mind that they have?
Yeah. Thank you. So my book, Stop Depriving the World of You, it's an ageless book, and I thank Napoleon Hill for inspiring me. But my title was derived because I had some lovely clients that I see their greatness, I see their ability, and they would say, well, "You're nice, but not everybody is." And I said, "You're right, not everybody is, but there's a lot more people out there. There's a lot of people. I shouldn't say more, but you can find people that support you. Stop depriving the world of you." And that's how I said, "You're depriving the world of you." And then I said, "Stop depriving the world of you." And that's what I want everyone. So my book, certainly, it will inspire you to stop depriving the world of you. Also, my articles, I try to be inspirational because it's who I am. I believe that we're on this earth for a very short time. Why not make the best of it? Why not take anything you have that you think can help others, utilize that? So my articles on Medium, Biz Catalyst, are usually about people that have either overcome adversity. My stories are usually about that, or just articles that get people to think, I hope. That's what I want people to do, is think. And finally, I have some hypnosis tapes that I've begun to market, and that you can go to my website, DarleneCorbett.com. So thank you so much. All of them are the belief in the possibilities.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I just want to also remind our audience that we see you, we hear you, and we thank you for chiming in and sharing your comments. Peter, I'm not sure we had any additional questions from the audience.
Yeah, definitely have some comments more. So Laverne's got some great comments about what she does and how she immerses herself in the reality of the future. Love Keith says, yes, it's clear to be what you want, clear to be in what you want. And of course, Faith Focus Flow says, stop depriving the world of you. Love that so much. And I want to come right back to you.
Hey, got a shout out to Johnny Lloyd, who's out there too.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, Johnny Lloyd, forgive me there. Thank you, Galen, for diving more into the chat than I have. And I see Ada as well. So thank you so much. I see a lot of individuals there for sure. And I'm coming back to you because we're getting close to the end of the year. And this is the time for me of reflection of 2021 in this case, but it's also a reflection now, a look ahead to 2022. What do you have up your sleeve towards the end of the year?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question. Great question. I was coaching a group in preparation for my personal annual retreat, which I host on an island for only 10 women. And we met yesterday. And when we had our meeting, we were discussing the plans, not so much for 2022, but we were reviewing what we said from 2021 and 2020 in preparation to close out 21 to see what we needed to reassess going into 2022. So what I've just said is the fact that we're hosting an annual meeting of accountability for your life. And I would strongly suggest any of you, if you are in a mastermind group, and I want to give kudos to Nina, Segura, Begin, Galen, and many other mastermind groups who are inviting the members of their group to join us on January the 8th and the 7th in Boca Raton as we come and share our life in writing. I always like to encourage all of you to think about the fact that You were given 365 days in 2020, provided we see the end of 2020. But with that being said, just imagine you were blessed with 365 days again to live your dreams, to live your purpose, your passion, and your desires. Now, before you can go into 2022, you must document what is it that you desire in the spiritual, the financial, the family, your health, your education. What about your personal development? How about that business that you have or you're going to start? What about your recreation, your civic and the creative areas of your life? Are you going to live life on purpose? Where is it written? Where is it written? So join us in Boca Raton at the Embassy Suites. Space is limited because of COVID. And I will say this, in 2020 during COVID and 2021 during COVID in January, we were approaching 100 people that did come with their mask on. So because space is limited and we're only able to put a few people per table versus the 10 per table, please don't wait. Register today, because I don't want to be the person that says, I'm sorry, we are out of space. It is going to be the most powerful event for the year, but for your life. So that's what we're planning on doing. And I would encourage all of you to go to internationalmasterminders.com and you can register there. Thank you.
Good stuff there. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm a planner, so looking ahead to 2022 and beyond is right up my sleeve, right up my alley, and preparing for it now. I'm even started to reflect on 2021 right now, but put plans in place, put strategies in place, put goals in place for 2022. And it's not too early because we're almost into November. And before you know it, we'll be right there in Boca Raton as well. So listen, we're getting close to the time that it's time for us to wrap up. And this is a great opportunity for us to be able to reflect a little bit on this conversation around subconscious, this conversation around, positives and negatives in our minds and what we've been able to glean, and also to hear from our co-hosts and our guests about how we can stay in touch with you, our audience. So Galen, I'm bringing you in right off the top. Galen, any aha moments, anything that resonated for you for today's session?
Yeah. I'll tell you, this was selfishly an opportunity to get ready for this conference I'm going to be at. And one of the things I captured, actually listening to Ms. Ann, I wrote this down. I wrote down the subconscious mind doesn't work on what we want. It works on what we tell it over and over again. And so it's really important that we not only listen and be mindful of what are we telling our subconscious mind? What are we telling it? And it might be different than what we say we want. And when that's the case, you've got to change that talk track, whether it's deploying any of the strategies that our guests shared with us, or whether it's taking a 5-minute vacation to interrupt and replace that negative thought with something positive. I just love the ideas. I love the strategies. I love the wisdom that we get from our guests every week. I invite everyone to follow me, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. A number of different ways you can get a hold of me. The most fun way is by listening to my new podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership, where we talk to other amazing guests and experts in their field and get their wisdom on how to lead more effectively. It's real talk you can't get anywhere else. But this has been an amazing conversation, and I feel almost ready for this conference. that I'm going to be attending, and can't wait until next week to hear more.
Galen, before you run up, I want to ask you this question here. What are you doing to affect your subconscious mind? We talked about habits. We talked about affirmations. What have you done historically? What are you going to be doing moving forward around in order to affect your subconscious?
Yeah, very similar to what Miss Ann said earlier. I'm being more reflective about the thoughts that continue to pop up. I'm writing them down. I'm journaling more so that I can be more observant. We have a tendency to think that things go according to the way that we want. And as I said in my note earlier, things don't go the way you want. Things go the way based on what you think about. And so it's important to be observant and reflective of what are your thoughts. And very often, this isn't work that you can do by yourself. It requires that you either talk to someone or that you journal so that you can be observant of those thoughts and those trends.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Ann McNeil, what has resonated with you today as we have dove into the subconscious mind? And how do we stay in touch with you, Ann McNeil?
Well, I tell you, Darlene, I have to tell the world we didn't talk about this. And Brittany, if you have it, please share it. But I want to publicly thank you, Darlene, because many people don't know that Darlene has actually been the host, moderator, if you will, or I call it host, for our Friday accountability call. And every Friday, we host a Think and Grow Rich accountability call. We stream it live on Facebook. And you can go again to internationalmasterminders.com and get that information to register. Or you can go to Eventbrite even. Just go to Eventbrite and you can register. You get 1 minute to share your aha from the book, and you get 1 minute to share your business goal for us to hold you accountable. And so, Darlene, I just want to publicly let you know how much I really appreciate and having you come on and week after week after week share uh, with our audience. Think and Grow Rich Friday accountability call is 7 a.m. Eastern time, and we would love to have you there. But this is a place for you to begin to also tap into your own subconscious mind and have a place, a private place, even though it's a public place, it's a private place that you can come and share your aha moments and also share your hunches and spirit and inspiration. And many of our guests that are in the chat are also participating with us there. Now, the way you can reach me and connect with me through my Clarity Mastermind. You can go to annmcneil.com/coaching, because I am realizing from my ahas being in this program today that the way you can program your own subconscious mind and get greater clarity is to join us as a part of our self-confidence formula challenge that we're in, where basically what we're doing is training the subconscious mind. And we really didn't get too much into that today. But when you think about the words of Napoleon Hill, he tells us you must tell yourself over and over and over again through the affirmation what you desire. And I'm going to go back to those 6 steps to riches again on page 28, depending upon what version of the book you have. When Napoleon Hill says, how much do you want? Doing what? By when? The 4th step to riches, he says, write an affirmation statement. The 5th, you are going to turn it into, something you're going to recite. But then he says, the 6th step, he says, repeat it once upon arising and once before retiring. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the key that our guest, Miss Darlene Corbett, has told us today. You've got to tell yourself through a written or oral affirmation exactly what you want. Do not worry about how it will manifest. That's not your job. That's the job, like Darlene did an excellent job. That's the job of the infinite intelligence. But only if you act on the hunches and the inspirations from the spirit from within. And Darlene did exactly that. When she opened this program today, she told us from reading, Think and Grow Rich, she got an idea. She didn't sit on it. She acted on it. And we're going to challenge each and every one of you to put in the chat an idea that you'd like to act on. So that's how you can get in touch with me, AnnMcNeil.com/coaching.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Ann McNeil, thank you so much. Darlene, let's bring you back in. Excited for our conversation today. Thank you so much for dropping some beautiful gems on how to more impact our subconscious mind, what this really means to us for sure. So as we wrap up, how do we stay in touch with you moving forward, and any more pearls that you want to share with us as well?
Yeah. The two things. One, you can go to DarleneCorbett.com. As I said, you can find me on Medium with Darlene Corbett. But I want to say something. I think it was Ian, you said it. Everyone has greatness. I really, and I do this. I write it in my book, Stop Depriving the World of You. I say to my clients, everybody has it. Have you discovered your greatness yet? And don't let age define you. So many people do. And I'm a woman of a certain age, I always say. I really believe, don't let it go. Tap into your greatness. Everyone has uniqueness. And I encourage everyone to do that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Darlene, for being with us today. You really helped to strengthen what this subconscious mind conversation should mean to us, how we should better impact it. I will say, we often get caught up in our day-to-day conundrum, whether it's going to work, whether it's taking care of the family, whether it's doing housework, whatever the case may be. It's easy for us to not impact our subconscious mind intentionally. It's easy to let the world impact our subconscious unknowingly. And it's very important for us to be more intentional, more focused on writing this stuff down, to repeating these affirmations, to really focusing on what we want our subconscious to be impacted with. And, if you don't have that mastermind around you, if you don't have that planning, that strategy for that, or that accountability that is needed, you found the right place. You find the right place with Think and Grow Rich. But you've also found your tribe now with our Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live for sure. So don't be a stranger. Continue to stay with us for sure. But also begin putting into place what you're hearing, putting into action what you're hearing. Don't just say, this is nice, this is great, but really start doing. And that's what really separates what other programs, other processes from what you're hearing today for sure. You really got to do in order to really see the impact. My name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the high performance coach, helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames. Listen, we are here every week. Same time, same channel. Next week, we have another phenomenal guest who's going to be here with us, diving into, yes, we have Joe Pesci here. We're going to talk more about this subconscious mind and what you can do to better impact it on a day-to-day basis. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you for your greatness. Darlene, thank you. Galen, thank you. Ann McNeil, we'll see you again very, very soon. Without further ado, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great Saturday. Have a great weekend, and have a great new week ahead of you. Take care.